Deals Hiten Samtani, the associate publisher on the West Coast. And I'd like to thank you for joining us today while everyone in the industry is still navigating these incredible changes and a very, very sudden shock to the system, economic, financial, medical, you name it. And obviously real estate is deeply impacted. So I do want to thank all our listeners for taking some time to join us today. So today's talk is going to be with some of the leaders of Southern California's most successful residential brokerages, and I'll introduce them in a second. Tomorrow, we have our founder and publisher, Amir Karangi. He'll be sitting down with Michael Schvo, who is a broker turned developer who's just, in the last 6 months, bought about $3 billion worth of properties. So it'll definitely be an interesting time. Hey, Mauricio, there you are. Okay,
hey,
good.
Sorry about that. I had in my calendar, we had the wrong link. We had the old one not for the panelists.
I see.
Hi, guys.
It's all good.
Hey, Mauricio, how are you, man?
Good.
Your chandelier makes up for everything, so don't worry about it. Let's get started by introducing our panelists. So we've got Peter Hernandez, who's the head of Douglas Elliman's Western region. Peter, thank you so much for being with us. Peter was also formerly the president and founder of Telus Properties before Elliman absorbed that company. We've got Jason Oppenheim, who's the founder and CEO of the Oppenheim Group. And we've got Mauricio Umansky, who's the founder and CEO of the agency. As I said, three of the most active residential leaders in Southern California, and they're also deal makers. So they're seeing this from multiple angles. Mauricio, let's start with you. You've had a career. You've seen a couple of cycles. You've seen a lot of challenges in both in the Southern California market and in the larger residential market. Have you ever seen anything like this, and how do you feel?
Well, I don't think any of us have ever seen anything like this. This is, as a real estate agent, I think this is my third recession going through it. And I don't think any of us have ever seen anything quite the way what we're experiencing today. We've seen tremendous recessions due to different reasons. But this one, is really putting the country at a halt, right? I mean, they basically have told all of our real estate agents, particularly not the country, but certainly the majority of the states, they have basically told all of us as agents that we cannot, go out and sell, that we're not an essential business and that we should stay home. And I understand that. I think that there's a lot of great reasons for that. But, we're basically trying to get creative, through virtual tours and through a lot of different ways of marketing properties. But it's all about creativity now, right? So, but no, I don't think any of us have ever seen this.
And we'll talk about some of those strategies that you guys are using to get creative and what you're advising your agents. But Jason, talk about just the scale of this. I think the thing about this compared to some other big events is that it's sort of the unseen enemy with no definitive timeline, right? First, we thought this will blow over in a couple of weeks. Now people are talking a couple of months to worst case scenario, even 6 months. So how are you processing that as an Angelino, as a broker, and as a leader?
Well, I'm probably going to be the optimist on this panel, but I think that this is really going to be more short-term than long-term. Obviously, it's serious right now, and like Mo said, we're just at a pause. I've never seen real estate just completely pause like this. Mm-hmm. But I think that we're going to weather this storm better than we think. I think that we'll probably be back to normal within a couple of months. And there's a lot of pent-up demand. I really don't see the demand going away. In fact, if anything, we got a huge stimulus package. We have low gas prices, which is essentially a further stimulus package or essentially a tax cut. Extremely low interest rates and pent-up demand as we go into the summer. So I think, assuming we're back in 3, 6, 8 weeks, mm-hmm. I don't see it as a fundamental long-term problem. I think the markets will recover quickly. I think real estate, obviously real estate's not as liquid as the stock market, and I think that might be perceived by a lot of investors as a good thing right now.
Right.
We're not seeing the real estate market as affected as the stock market, probably because of its illiquidity. And you can leverage yourself in real estate. So I think I'm very optimistic, to be quite honest, in that we're going to have a strong second half of the year.
Mm-hmm. And what happens with real estate? I mean, in Southern California, we had seen a number of massive deals, headline-grabbing deals, just prior to this, right? And in general, the luxury market, I think all of you had, scored some significant deals as well. Peter, let's bring you in. In terms of your brokers, I'm sure there was a sense of optimism, at the beginning of this year. There were a lot of positive signs for the California economy and the residential market at large. Suddenly, the sentiment has just completely plummeted. So I'm wondering how much of your role right now is just, psychologist, therapist to your brokers, and what are you saying?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, right? I think we were all like calling it the roaring 20s as we came flying into the new year because business was so strong. And it's amazing how fast things can turn on a dime, right? With just, a virus. And so what I'm experiencing right now is all over the map. So I'm seeing extremes of difference in perceptions from, the one extreme that, is just imminent danger, who knows how this is going to end, to we think it's a hoax. And we're experiencing the same thing with our agents. I have agents right now all day long telling me that they're opening escrows, taking listings. They've never been busier in their lives. And I have other agents that are like deer in the headlights, and they're completely panicked. They can't even imagine how they can do a deal right now. So a lot of our time right now is working with our agents to see that there's not a one size fits all, that everybody's responding to this differently and everybody has a different perception around it. And that what you need to do is we're almost applying like a neutrality. Don't push real estate on people, but check in with everybody. And then if real estate comes up and they want to talk about it, you're there for them. So it's all over the board is the only way I can describe it. And
is it being broken down by high end? So let's say high end brokers are finding it easier or harder, or is it done by that as well? Are you seeing sort of your luxury brokers having an easier or harder time of it?
I think there's a little more activity in the more entry level markets, but we're also seeing big deals going into escrow. We're seeing big deals sticking and closing. We're also seeing some cancellations, and we're also seeing, some extensions. So I've even had price reductions up to 10% so far that sellers and buyers have agreed to. So again, it's not like I can apply one simple thought to this whole thing. I think as agents, we have to really like level up and get really super leadership quality professional about the way we're handling our business right now, because our clients are really looking to us for support.
Mauricio, you've got some agents who are top deal makers who could probably weather the storm, or even if it lasted for a year, financially would be solid and would be good. And then you've probably got all of you, and please jump in whenever you've got something, but all of you have probably got some younger agents who are living essentially deal to deal. And how are you mentoring them through that process? Because fear and uncertainty seem to be the two most prevailing emotions right now. So how are you guys having those conversations?
Well, I think that one of the most important things that we have to learn from past recessions is that the market does get smaller, right? Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is I'm not talking about the volume or the pricing or anything like that. I mean, we've seen where prices increase in a recession. We've seen all kinds of different things in history. But one of the things that we continue to see is that a lot of agents get out of the business, and there becomes a compression as who ends up with the business. And so therefore, great agents, great companies, people that come out really are the ones that start absorbing higher market share, right? Our responsibility as a broker to our agents, in my opinion right now, is to teach them how to get through this, and particularly the younger guys who are the rookies and the younger people and all of that stuff. But we all have to learn, right? We have to stay in touch with our clients. It's a great time and a great opportunity to look inside your own business and analyze as a team, right? What it is that you're doing from a marketing perspective. Your CRM, is it up to date? Is your drip campaigns up to date? Are you ready to do all of that stuff? A great time to just call and say hi and start getting on the in front of all of your past clients so that they refer you business in the future, because the best way to get lead generation, and all the agents always talk about, is lead generation, right? That's the key to agents, sales, and growth. The best way has always been through referrals, okay? There's a lot of other ways, and we all do them, and all kinds of different things, door knocking, this, whatever, but the best way, in my opinion, has always been referrals. So right now is a great opportunity for the agents to go back, analyze, and have a great restart, right? And take advantage of this time where you can actually, you're not living, with headaches and going crazy, like Peter said. I mean, there's still some deals, it's way down. I don't care who, there's no question it's way down.
Is anyone pulling listings, Mauricio? Is anyone pulling listings at the moment saying, hey, look, I'm not going to get the price I need. Let's just chill out for a bit?
I think there's a little bit of everything. I mean, we did a deal this year. One of our Northern California agents did do a deal, and we were able to create a deal out of a virtual showing. We did do it. I am negotiating a couple of offers. But even if you look at the index on Showtime, which tells you about how many showings and where showings are at, the reality is that showings are down 48% nationwide from the base case, which is January 1 to January 7th, which is the slowest week of the year. And March 12th, you literally saw the graph go, from up here all the way, down 48%, right? And we were on pace to beat the 2019 numbers. So there's no question that the numbers have consistent and kept going. One of the great things that has happened is we have not seen, and I agree with Peter, we have not seen a fallout of existing deals, very small fallout. The people that were in escrow are closing and they're moving forward. Banks are funding. Title companies are recording. They're doing gap recordings. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different ways of, recording and all of that stuff, but they're doing it. But the most important thing, I think, as an agent right now is to go look back inside, get on the phone, take advantage, go get on the phone, go start setting yourself up to be one of those agents that when you come out of this thing, you have the most market share.
I think part of it is just the fear, right? You can't really operate at your best when you're terrified about what's going to happen tomorrow, the next day, the next month. Jason, are you guys or anyone of you offering any sort of financial support to some of these agents who might need it during this time? I don't know if that takes the form of, short-term loans or covering sort of some marketing expenses or something, any technology concessions, anything that anyone's doing here to help some of the agents out?
I'm in a more unique position with a much smaller brokerage than the other two gentlemen on this call. I happen to think you hit the nail on the head with respect to fear. I think fear of the unknown is where we were at a few weeks ago. And I think that the more knowledge that we have, and we're starting to understand, hospitalization rates and mortality rates and contagion rates much better now. And I do think that fear will dissipate and we will have a better understanding of the numbers and the denominator, which is the most important thing in this virus. And I think that that will normalize things. In terms of, again, a unique position, not a agents, and they're all obviously very successful. So really, none of them have any financial concerns. I think they're taking the time to do things that Mauricio mentioned. A bio, focus on some of your marketing, redesign some things, just get on top, contact your clients. I think that's the opportunity that it's created for a few people. But I think, again, Peter and Mauricio can probably speak to agents who, may be struggling more financially.
Right. Yeah, Peter, let me bring you into that and also just go from that into talking a little bit about how Douglas Elliman is looking at its own operations in something like this, right? Office space, I think we had Howard on last week, and, office space is suddenly an interesting concept, let's just say. So, Peter, if you could talk about that.
So one of the things we're doing to alleviate fear right now is really connecting with our agents on a regular basis. We're actually doing 2 calls a day, Zoom calls, where we're getting hundreds and hundreds of agents on these calls, and we're brainstorming and talking about the different issues and working together as a team to best understand how to practice real estate right now in this market. Because even though, as Mauricio said, business is down, people are still wanting to do business. And so we have to figure out how to get it done, how to do business without spreading the disease. That's our moral responsibility right now. So we're actually working really hard. And then once a week, Howard and Scott are getting on with a town hall, and they're talking about the business and what's going on. And it's a very calming effect to the company. So by engagement and by constantly being virtually connected with Zoom, we're doing Zoom sales meetings, we're doing podcasts, we're doing role playing, we're doing webinars on marketing and how to digitally present yourself and virtually market properties right now. We're just so proactive right now that we're keeping our agents out of fear by keeping them focused on the things they can do. From a very kind of therapist point of view, I'm trying to focus everybody at a one day at a time kind of a lifestyle right now, because we can handle anything in one day. And if we go into the what ifs and we wonder if this happens or that happens, we're going to go right into fear mode. So by sticking with like this one day at a time attitude and just looking at what we can do today, reaching out to clients, making sure that we're super visible on social media, that we're there if people want to talk to us and be there, has been super helpful. So that's that. Agents, are getting SBA loans. They are finding ways to be creative. I know CAR and NAR is lobbying real hard to make real estate an essential business, as well as helping us become part of the relief fund. I know some agents are probably borrowing against their commissions with third-party vendors, but what we've done is we've actually done many workshops on how to prepare for these times. So we've talked to agents about, having two accounts, having a business account, having a personal account, how to put your taxes away first, how to plan for your marketing expenses and all those things. So I think our agents as a whole are very, very prepared.
Right. I think that's you hit the nail on the head with that. I think some of the basics of just being judicious about your money will come into play in such a way here that as long as they handle some of those basic things, I think many of them will be fine. Mauricio and Jason, I want to bring you in. At the top of the call, you started talking a little bit about getting creative with selling. A lot of the agents who you manage and deal with in your own business, you're showing some pretty unique properties, right? It's not easy to describe a Gilded Age Beverly Hills estate, for example, right? So how are you getting creative when it comes to showcasing and marketing those properties? Whoever wants to start, I'll get to the other one as well.
Go for it, Jason.
I'll start by saying that we're not. We're simply not being creative here, and I don't think it's necessary. I don't think that technology is going to have a big boon because of this. I think that the reality is that, when you're dealing in the $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 price point, there are things like iBuying and maybe virtual tours that might, be efficacious. But I really don't think that when you're selling a house, 2 million, 5 million, 10 million, anyone's going to buy a property, or at least not any more people, and maybe less than 1/10 of 1%. Unless they see the home. I mean, the bottom line is when you're dealing in the luxury market, anything really over $1 million, it's relationships, it's person-to-person interaction, it's trust, it's experience, it's knowing what you're doing. I don't think there's anything about creativity that's going to necessarily, or technology that's going to replace that. Right now, I think an interesting question that we also touched on is whether we're an essential business. I don't think it's black and I certainly don't think it's we either are or we are not. I would argue that, and I think actually even across the country, I know Chicago, I think does consider like real estate services essential. I don't think that Gavin Newsom has carved that out specifically, but the bottom line is, if we're representing an investor maybe, and he wants to take advantage of low interest rates, maybe that's not, essential.
Right. Or does Jeff Bezos need to buy his $160 million house right now? Maybe not, but it might be
essential. But, we owe our clients a fiduciary duty, and there are clients that have a lot of their money tied up in a property, or there are buyers that the wife's pregnant and they need to get a larger home. I think that in some cases, absolutely what we're doing right now, we are still doing showings and we are still selling properties. It's very limited. It's in an instance where I think it is essential only, and where the seller is requesting it, where the agents are being careful, and where the buyer, also considers this something essential for him. I think I think we just need to be intelligent about how we go about doing showings right now. I don't think we need a black and white answer as to whether or not we are essential or non-essential.
Mauricio, I'd love your take on that as well, and specifically when it comes to properties that are not easy to describe or get a sense of.
Well, the beautiful thing is that today we have amazing technology. We have great video. We have the Matterports. There's so many different ways of displaying a property. Clearly, social media and Instagram is a great way of marketing yourself today and showing property. I've seen some really clever techniques. Video, digital videos are super important. Videotape yourself and send it off to somebody. Give a full tour. You're completely alone, right? On Monday we did a FaceTime tour, and we actually did a FaceTime tour of a very nice property, and we are expecting an offer. I did a FaceTime tour just myself for some clients, and we are, there was nobody else in the house. I turned on the lights, I opened up the doors, I put on the fireplace, I put on the music, I set up the house exactly as if I was showing the house, and I literally did a live FaceTime showing. And, they are, as Jason is saying, they are in a situation where they need to move now. They actually have in their life certain situations where they cannot, put it on pause, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of hotels are closing. So they're kicking you out of their hotels. So there's a lot of situations where you cannot go on pause right now. So, quite honestly, I think that is really the extent of being creative in terms of how you can create. I've seen a lot, I follow as many real estate agents as I can on Instagram, and I follow every all the different firms, the Oppenheims, Douglas Elliman, everybody, and I think everybody's doing a great job. But there's no rocket science here, and it is what it is. It's all about your reach. And to me, I think the most important thing right now that we can do is service the clients, but as agents, is take this time and get prepared for the restart. Are
there any specific tools that you're using now more? Let's say we're all on Zoom at the moment, but anything else that you're finding has become more essential in the last couple of weeks as you transition?
Well, I wish I bought Zoom stock 3 months ago. I think we all wish we did that.
Yeah, Peter was asking me about that.
I've been on Zoom in this office now for 12 days or 10 days. We actually went into a self-quarantine a couple of days before the mandatory quarantine. My wife put us all under self-quarantine. She just didn't want to see any of it. So I think she got a little jump start on that. But we've been using Zoom. We had a sales meeting yesterday, as Peter said, with the entire 37 offices across the nation and internationally. Everybody gave a little status on what's going on in their particular island or Canada or wherever. And we had approximately 300 attendees. It was a very well-attended meeting, and so far the response has been really good. So it's Zoom, it's staying in touch, it's getting prepared, and it's servicing your clients. I mean, that's the bottom line. And I agree with Jason. When we all come out, that we all spoke about yesterday, is that you don't necessarily have lost revenue as an agent. You have deferred revenue. Meaning the clients that you're working with or have are still your clients, and your listings are still your listings, and they're still your inventory. So you're just not selling it today, but you're deferring the revenue, right? So if you think about it in that way, then we just have to hang in there. The good news is nobody can go out and spend money right now. So
I guess there's no alternative to what you're doing. I'm going to take a question from the audience because we've got a lot of brokers listening in, and they've been sending some pretty cool questions. This one is from Yogi Harel, and it sort of dovetails with something I wanted to ask. Los Angeles, as you all know, is not really a city that is accustomed to vertical living. Density has never really been a thing, and this is why so far, I guess we've been prepared a little bit. There's a little disturbance on the call. Is anyone moving papers?
I think that's coming from yours because it keeps showing up as your thing.
Okay. All right. I think right now we should be better. I hope so. I was saying, LA has not really been a city about vertical living, and only recently, and Peter, some of your agents have been marketing some of those condo buildings as well. Only recently have we started seeing a slightly greater acceptance of, multifamily luxury housing. And I wonder what something like this, where, the best thing you could do at the moment is stay as far away from people as possible. I wonder if this is going to have a cool down effect on that product type, even after we're past this.
So we're actually seeing an increase. I mean, it was so interesting on our call yesterday, Jim Jacobson, who runs our new dev, and tracks, website traffic and things like that on all of our projects. We've actually seen an increase in, sees and virtual, tours and people going online to look at it. When we came in before the virus, as you guys know, we were blowing away like price per square foot prices with projects like The Addition. I mean, things were just going through the roof. I mean, we were seeing things happen that nobody could believe. And I think that at the end of the day, I think people, have short memories. And we're going to, come out of this, and people that want vertical living, that want to be able to just lock up their place and go travel or not have the maintenance of a big estate, they're going to still want to do that and buy those. So I think as a product, it's going to continue to grow in Los Angeles and in California. I think its time has come. I think there's other factors, like shortage of construction and building and things like that are going to require us to go more vertical. So there's other elements at play besides just the virus. And don't forget, guys, viruses have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I don't know where we are in that process.
We don't know where we are. That's the thing.
Yes, but it's going to end. We know. And so, we're going to come out of this. And when we do, it'll be like the fires. It'll be like, some of the other tragic events we've had. And we're going to move on as a society because we're going to learn to adapt. And I think some of the lessons that we're going to get from this are going to be amazing. Like one thing that has just dawned on me is that things that were important before the virus aren't important, and things that weren't important that we took for granted are now really important. And some of these things are going to be, I think, life-changing for us in many ways as we come out of this. I feel the community is stronger. I feel we're more connected than ever. I think, as an industry, we're rallying. The companies are coming together. The agents are coming together. And there's a lot of positives. So as far as vertical living, and to answer your question, I think it's going to continue in LA. Maybe the guys disagree, but that's my opinion.
Jason.
I couldn't agree with him more. I don't think this will have any impact in the long term on vertical living. And I think Peter's right that we're seeing a tremendous price per square foot by these new towers like the Addition, the Pendry, what have you. And I think it's 8899 Beverly out here. And there's just not enough supply. There's too much demand from people that want pied-à-terres, from Europeans, from people from New York, London, you name it. I think until we even get close to satisfying that demand, which we are not, we're going to see a continuing price per square foot increases and sales in vertical living. And again, I think, as Peter also suggested, Americans have very short-term memories, for better or for worse, but we do. And like this, again, this will end. We don't know when, but I highly doubt this will have any impact on vertical living.
But do you guys, and I hate to be the morbid one, but it's my job today a little bit. So after 9/11, there were a lot of people who wouldn't lease office space high up, right? That there were deals that were, massive commercial leases that were abandoned in the wake of that. Obviously came back, and we have the New York that we have today, but it took a while. So I don't know if you guys are thinking about that or factoring that in.
COVID-19 is not attacking upper floors of office buildings. They're not particularly at risk. I just don't think that this will have any impact on vertical living because I think it's just not really relevant to it. If anything, I think it may have an impact on gated communities. I do think that there are people that might from this actually feel safer. In fact, we're seeing that with I am anyway, maybe it's too anecdotal. Properties that we have behind gates are getting a little bit of more activity than they would otherwise get right now. We got into multiple offers on an $8 million property today behind a gated community. So I think that might be something that might have an effect. But again, I really think, and I think this has been echoed by Mauricio and Peter already, but there's going to be pent-up demand. I wouldn't be surprised if we have our best third quarter in many years. So I just don't see a long-term impact on real estate. And I think that any impact, any negative impact that may have occurred because of this, I think will be outweighed by historically low interest rates.
Got it. And Mauricio, you started the call again by mentioning a recession, which I hadn't even brought up. You used the word recession right away, which I think is a fair way to describe what's going on. Given what's happening in the capital markets and Wall Street we haven't even seen the beginning of the pain in Wall Street, I think. How do you think this is going to impact the luxury jumbo market, the ability to take out financing on some of these bigger purchases? Anyone who wants to weigh in on that, because that's a question that just came in.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know if we have seen the end or the carnage, on the stock market. I mean, we're certainly not, I don't think any of us are Wall Street experts. And, I don't think anybody's a Wall Street expert. I mean, even if you look at the experts, they don't know what's happening on Wall Street.
Right.
All I do is listen to Bloomberg and CNBC and everything the last few days, just because there's not much to do, and none of them really know what's going on with that. There's a shortage of housing in California. Okay, that's 100% correct. And this is an LA call, so I'm going to keep that to Los Angeles. There's a shortage of housing in LA. The jumbo housing is and the luxury housing is. There's some great homes out there. Some of them are already overpriced. I think that, one of the things that the media has to do is be smart also about the way that they report, because when you see and I'm going to try to pick a number of a house so that so that you can't say which house I'm talking about. But when you see $22 million house reduced to 75 and sell for 65, for argument's sakes. That is not a 50% reduction, and that is not carnage in terms of the jumbo house that it lost 50% of its value. The $122 million house should never have been listed at $122 million. It should have been listed by professionals at $75 million in the first place, and should have sold for $65 million in the first place. Okay, so
I think it's a vicious cycle,
and that's something that we are all. It's difficult, but we are all going to have to figure out how to report on that and how to talk about that and how to deal with all of those things. Okay,
I think it's a vicious cycle. It's a great point, but it's a vicious cycle, right? A broker sometimes will go with the price tag to win business or to win attention or both. Correct. The media will follow that, and then this happens, and then it's the aha. Yeah, I think it's a cycle.
The house sells for 50% off. Are we in, is there a problem? No, that's another $65 million sale. That's amazing. Not a shitty $65 million sale. So, that's the high end. I mean, the high end has been on an incredible run over the last 18 months. There is a lot of the copy and paste housing, which I think is going to take a little bit of depreciation, which is kind of the same thing over and over again. Uniqueness. Developers are going to have to create amazing product, and that goes back to the vertical housing. I think that there's very little tremendously good luxury product on the market, and that's why I think the Edition has had the success that it has had. I think that what Jason just said in terms of security and gated communities, we have very few gated communities in Los Angeles, and so therefore, if you want security in a gated community, you really have to start looking also at vertical living, walkability. Not getting in your car, vertical living, going back to all of that stuff. So, Beverly Hills has very little vertical living. I think Beverly Hills is going to be an extraordinary opportunity if you can get anything built in Beverly Hills within the city limits. And talking about LA specifically, obviously the Montage has seen, launched in the last recession and has seen tremendous up to $4,000 a square foot, in the most recent trades. But I think Beverly Hills is going to see some amazing vertical living pricing, price per foot, record-breaking prices in the years to come. So I'm very excited about that stuff.
Got it. And Peter, I've got a question that just came in for you. Well, this is quite an angry question from Phil Nordella, which is, why do you allow your agents to continue to create a danger by listing or selling properties at this time when the advisory says, try to stay at home as much as possible? It's a tough question, but I think it is something that is on a lot of people's minds. So Peter, take the floor.
No, I like that question, actually. And we shouldn't create any dangers at all, and we aren't. And, the actual listing and selling of property actually has no effect on danger or spreading disease or anything. We send contracts online. They sign online with DocuSign. We are avoiding all, social contact. We're practicing social distancing. We're following all the laws that are being passed down from Sacramento, from CAR and all of that. So we aren't doing anything in violation of any of the laws or anything that would cause, this disease to spread. So I don't disagree with you. We have to be extremely careful right now. I like to say, I would like to say something like, how do we sell real estate without spreading the disease? That's our challenge. And, people like Jason was talking about, there's people that have to move right now. There's people that are in hotels that can't afford to be in them anymore, or they don't want to be in them anymore. There's people that are having family emergencies across the country. There's instances out there where sales are being forced to happen. And there's other things people just really want to transact right now. People want to buy right now. So for those people, we have to figure out a way to do it that's socially responsible. So no disagreement with you at all.
And then, go ahead, Jason.
Well, I'll just echo what Peter said, and that is that, we owe our clients a fiduciary duty to do our jobs. We have existing listing contracts, and we absolutely owe the public and our agents a duty not to spread the disease. But we have done showings this week and last week, and it is possible, I think, to do our job, to represent our clients, and to be very careful. And that is, if we do a showing, we ask that people don't touch anything, and we, of course, stay a respectable distance from the buyer. And again, I think it's really going to be up to, we need to be receptive to our sellers' needs and our buyers' needs. And I don't think we can paint, a black and white picture here.
I want to just jump in with the what is your gesture of choice now that the handshake or the hug has sort of become taboo? What are you going with? Is it the elbow? Is it the namaste? What's that, Mauricio? I want to hear from you.
I'm doing the namaste bow. That's my thing.
Jason?
I'm doing the elbow.
The elbow's still working.
I'm staying 6 feet away and kind of turning my head to the side a little bit.
Fair enough. I wanted to ask that because it's been on my mind. I have seen people adapt in various ways. This is something that is, again, when you're looking at your operations, what are the things that you're reevaluating, if any? Is it office space? I've been to all your offices. They're beautiful architecturally, quite impressive. I'm sure quite expensive to maintain the way they are. So are you thinking about office space in any way? Are you thinking about, I read today some pretty sad news from Endeavor. They laid off 250 of their staff just like that. And Ari Emanuel, the chairman, said there's probably more of that to come. Let's talk about difficult decisions as heads of brokerages right now and what you're seeing. Jason, let's start with you and then.
I'll be the quickest to answer here. Again, we have manageable overhead. I'm employing all of our staff at 100%. And again, perhaps I'm something of an optimist in thinking that, within 6 weeks, we'll be back to normal. So right now we're paying everyone full. Everyone's working from home. Obviously, their productivity is not what it would be in the office. But I think that for larger brokerages, Compass, obviously, when you're teetering on profitability, I think that this can be very dangerous. Again, we're leaner and smaller, so perhaps Peter and Mauricio can give better and more thoughtful.
Yeah, Compass just laid off 15% of their staff. I think we broke that news just a couple days ago on The Real Deal. Peter, let's talk about that. You're obviously part of a national behemoth. Some decisions are made regionally and some decisions are made from HQ. Just talk about some of the difficult things that you might be, whatever you're comfortable sharing.
Or no, as far as offices, I think that, we're going as we go, and hopefully we never have to come to that point. But we're probably going to look at the non-essential costs that we have, and we're going to probably keep the essential costs and make sure that all of the resources our agents need to be successful in this business and to provide great service that we keep. But if there was something that was frivolous or not necessary, we might take a look at, cutting some of that. But we're going to, we've actually been around since 1911. So we've gone through 2 world wars. We went through the plague of the 20s. You know what I mean? We've gone through the Great Recession, the Great Depression. We have experience in this, and we know how to run a firm in a way that will continue to grow over the years and provide the best services for our agents.
And Mauricio, you're somewhat in the middle of these 2 guys in terms of size, and you have been expanding regionally quite a bit. So I believe you're in Austin, you're in Northern California. Talk about some of those moves and some of the decisions you might, or the conversations you're having with your partners.
Well, we're not in Austin yet. So if somebody opened up the agency in Austin,
Aspen. There you go. Aspen. It was Aspen. I knew there was an A in there.
So that I could go get them. But I'm very similar to Jason, and I'm very much of an optimist, and I'm taking an opportunity right now to that there is a lot of quiet time, if you will, from the perspective of servicing agents on a day-to-day basis, servicing deals on a day-to-day basis. So we are definitely taking this opportunity. We're only 8 years old. We're taking this opportunity right now to look at all of our systems, trim all our fat, make ourselves, take advantage that we have some time and come out of this thing in much more efficient manners. I do believe that efficiency is the key to all successful companies. And when you're running fast and when you're running quick, a lot of times those efficiencies fall apart and you end up with what's called a little bit of fat on your P&Ls, right? So we're definitely taking advantage that we've got time to look at all of those systems. Everything we will be trimming and have already began trimming that. But most important, rather than trimming the fat, it's really about efficiencies. We want to come out of this thing with the most efficient. I think we're the only company, as far as I know, that has a full, 100% participation CRM system, right? And it's really more of a full ERP system. So we have an opportunity to take a look at that, reshuffle it, change it a little bit, reprogram it a little bit, reprogram a little bit of our marketing organizational charts to make sure that everything flows really good. We're taking an opportunity to take a look, to take a look at some of our corporate philosophies. And so, it's an opportunity to relax and to be able to actually do some amazing things, right? Napoleon Bonaparte, when he would prepare for battle, when he was taking over the world, used to say to his staff, "Dress me slow because I'm in a hurry," right? Don't make mistakes dressing me. Back then it was difficult. Don't make mistakes dressing me, because if you don't make mistakes, I'll get there faster, right? I'll tell that to my agents all the time. You're late for an appointment, you get pulled over by the police, guess what? You're way later, okay? So you gotta take things slowly. And I think that's a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity to do it at home. It's a great opportunity to spend time with your kids, to work out with your kids, to talk to your children, tell stories, generational stories, teach them where your family came from, where they moved from, if you're immigrants. How did you get to where you got to? There's amazing opportunities right now with what we're going through, and we should take advantage of those in every aspect of your life, business,
I think,
love, and everything.
Connecting with old friends and stuff has been personally a very, very rewarding part of all this. It's just funny how so many people that we've had the TRD Talks for the past week, so many people have brought up war metaphors. You mentioned 2 world wars, Peter. You talked about this. We had a call the other day. People are really taking this quite seriously, which is good. We don't have much time left. I just want to get a quick sense of politics here. What do you think in terms of what our local and state and federal leaders are doing? Is it enough? What else should they be doing? Peter, let's start with you.
I think it's a go as you go. Nobody knows what to do, and I think they're doing overall a pretty darn good job. I mean, if it was me, I'd probably want to be a little stricter, quicker, get through this faster is kind of my thing. That's why I've stayed home every single day since. Even actually, I was with Mauricio. My wife dragged me in early too, and I was one of those that been home for a really long time, and I don't even hardly go out at all. We only send one person out, to shop, and that's Carrie wants to do that. And I've been home literally every day and working from here and really practicing social distancing, because I think that there's no point in being cavalier about it. Let's err on the side of caution and let's get through this. Why spread it? And so for me, it's really about just taking direction, following direction. I'll never forget, when the fires happened here in Malibu, and they said, mandatory evacuation. I didn't, decide to stay and fight because it was mandatory, and so I followed the law. So I'm kind of a law follower as it goes, and so I think they're doing a pretty darn good job so far.
Jason.
Yeah, I think it's our responsibility to make this thing stop as fast as possible. I think if we're going to be on Jason's time, we should not be out there showing properties and doing all of that stuff, so that we can hit the 6-week time frame that Jason's talking about. Because I do think that it will jump back with resilience, and I think we are all resilient people. I think it's impossible to judge. This is a data. I agree 100% with Peter. It's impossible to judge. This is a day-by-day situation. These are unprecedented times. We're not battling a war. We're battling a virus. And, even the medicals and the doctors don't 1,000% know exactly, what this thing looks like, spreads like, et cetera, et cetera.
But do you think you're getting enough information clarity from our leadership and all levels of government at the moment?
Well, I think there's a lot of miscommunications, and I think they're doing a relatively good job. But there's a lot of miscommunications that I'm very unhappy with. When they talk about 183 deaths, and not that I want to belittle 183 deaths, but that based on the coronavirus, our testing is so little. We're not making, in my opinion, enough of a statement about how small of a sample we're testing. And therefore, you really are a huge amount of people running out there with the coronavirus and spreading it, because there's, the numbers that are being reported are so small, to be honest with you, and beside, compared to what they really are. I mean, they talked about, I don't know, 3 deaths in Los Angeles or something like that. Well, we have 3 deaths a day from a car accident, right? Mm-hmm. So I just feel like we should be more, there should be some hypothesis occurring. There should be a little bit more meat and hypothesis occurring by the reporters and by the experts, so that we really know what we're dealing with and talking about. So I'm not 100% sure we've done a great job on that aspect.
Right.
I think there's been, you don't know something, I think it's natural to react with fear and caution. And I think that we did a good job in doing that. But I think that we're learning more and more every day. And I think that the media has a huge responsibility not to be sensationalistic or politicize. And I think the media might want to start providing more context that Mauricio was just talking about there. I think we're missing meat on the bones. I think we're missing context. And I think that the more we learn, and I think we're going to learn a ton over the next 2 weeks. You asked me why, or maybe you didn't ask me, but why I'm optimistic that I think we'll be out, we'll recover quickly, and I think we'll be back to normal quickly, is because I do think we're learning so much, so quickly, mostly about the mortality rate, the contagion rate, the hospitalization rate. And I think the more we understand those things, the less we'll react from fear. And I'm very optimistic that 2 to 3 weeks from now, we will know enough to be able to make very informed and non-sensationalistic decisions.
Mm-hmm. And then my final question, Peter, just on the buyer pool, we got some people asking about layoffs in different segments of, pretty much every industry is going through it, but how does that affect the buyer pool long term? Forget short term, we know what it means short term, but long term.
I mean, you said it. I think, anybody that's going to get laid off for their job is probably not a buyer. But for those people that aren't laid off, and for people that have to do real estate transactions right now, they are buyers, and that's who we're working with. I think that I think the market's going to definitely, like Mauricio said, it's going to take a hit during this time. There's no question. People are going to stand on the sidelines. Some people are going to want to do a wait and see. We're also experiencing, people that want to get tremendous deals right now, and there's those out there in the marketplace as well. But we also have people that want to take advantage of these interest rates, and the interest rates are beyond low. They're under 3% now. We're hearing about people getting loans in the high 2s. So when you see that, I was talking to somebody else, now's a great time to accumulate debt. Now's the time you want debt because rates are so low. So the world wants certainty. They want everything to be just like put into a neat little box with a bow on it so we can understand it with our feeble little minds and not be in fear. But the reality is we're in gray, and we all have to get used to that. And we're going to have every perception and every mindset and every different type of activity in our business happening right now. And that's just the way we have to be.
And so thank you so much for addressing a lot of these very, very serious issues. It is a tough time. I know that you're navigating a bunch of challenges, so I really do appreciate it. I want to end on a lighter note, which is, and I'd be crucified by people if I didn't ask this of Mauricio and Jason, your shows, Selling Sunset, Real Housewives, what's the latest with them? I've actually got friends who I told them I was hosting you both today, and they talked about it. I said, what's going on? Are we going to see you guys back on air soon?
Well, I'll start with that one since Jason, I don't know when yours is airing, but Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, I think starts airing April 5th or 15th or something like that. So we're not far from it, and it should be a fun season. And, look forward to see you guys all on Bravo.
Jason, let's hear from you.
My answer has to be no comment. You take from that what you will.
Contractually obligated. I get it. So thank you so much to everyone. Reminder that tomorrow we have Amir Karangi sitting down with Michael Schwo at the same time. So please sign up. Anyone who attended this will get an email follow-up for that. Peter, Jason, Mauricio, thank you so much for being with The Real Deal today, and take care. We'll see you soon.